The United States, and I don't mean its citizens, I mean its government, is doing some seriously, ludicrously stupid stuff when it comes to electricity. And its citizens will have to pay the bill. I mean, this is shockingly bad. And I don't understand why the Republican Party are doing this, why they think that this will somehow be a net benefit when it clearly is not. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the channel. I'm Sam Evans. You're watching The Electric Viking. Great to have you with us. Well, today it's not so great. I mean, this report is completely damning. And honestly, I think it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing that we have these clowns that are making these decisions that are leading to things like this. There's going to be a $3.1 billion, and this is the absolute best case scenario, minimum 3.1 billion US dollar annual cost estimated for fossil fuel plants the Department of Energy won't allow to retire. We're talking about fossil fuel plants, coal power plants that are broken, that are having to be fixed. These power plants are making a loss, yeah? One coal power plant owner reported it spent $29 million in the first 38 days of an Energy Department order to keep it online. It's been ordered to stay online by the government. This is like, honestly, the United States says, oh, look at China, look at them, look how bad these guys are. They aren't a democracy. We're all for democracy. And they're ordering these privately owned coal power plants to stay online that are losing money. It's madness. This is not democracy. This is just insanity. So what's going on? Well, the US Department of Energy, it's trying to prevent large fossil fuel power plants from retiring. It's going to cost ratepayers probably more than $3.1 billion a year in 2028, according to a report released Thursday by Earth Justice, the Environmental Defense Fund, the Natural Resources Defense Council, and the Sierra Club. In other words, everyone has worked out this is going to cost billions of dollars per year. It's wild, especially wild considering the cost of lithium iron phosphate, sodium ion batteries has been crumbling. The price is crashing down, and solar panels have never been cheaper. I don't know. I just don't understand this. It's wild. Grid Strategies use the cost of a dozen recent reliability must-run contracts from around the US, $89,315 per megawatt a year, as a proxy for the estimated cost of keeping fossil plants open due to a Department of Energy mandate. The states with the highest potential annual costs by 2029 for keeping power plants from retiring are California. Yeah, the federal government is forcing California to do this. 389 million. Texas, 183 million. I mean, Texas and California, these are the two highest percentage renewable energy states in America. California is already at 70% renewables if you include nuclear. It's 60% just renewables alone. Why would they want to have fossil fuel peaker plants on? It's crazy. Anyway, costs for Colorado, 180 million, Michigan, 171 million, Louisiana, 164 million, Illinois, 161 million. The report confirms that the Department of Energy's unlawful mandates amount to a self-inflicted rate hike in nearly every region of the country, said Ted Kelly, Director and Lead Counsel for US Clean Energy at EDF. These dirty and expensive fossil plants were slated to close for good reasons. They cannot compete with cleaner sources of energy on cost. These sources of energy are more affordable and better for our health. Now, literally within 24 hours of this crazy report coming out, Clean Technica published this report saying that a study at Harvard University noted that coal is linked with lung cancer. The more a country relies on coal-fired power plants to generate energy, the greater the lung cancer risk is among its citizens, according to a new study from Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health. Guys, I've been saying this for years. Why is no one listening to me? I'm saying this for years. You're getting lung cancer. You might get it yourself if you're watching this video. You really could. You can't do anything about it because literally, if you smoke cigarettes, yeah, sure, you're more likely to get it. But 35% of people who get lung cancer never smoked a cigarette or a cigar in their entire lives. Never. So, yeah, I mean, this is crazy. A friend of mine just passed away from lung cancer. She never smoked anything, ever, in her entire life. It's not just the general population that is more at risk of getting sick of dying from coal power plant air pollution exposure. Coal miners are also exposed to pollutants that sicken and kill them. We found that coal miners have significantly increased odds of death from CWP, COPD, and lung cancer compared with their counterparts in the US population. And also, there is data that I actually released on the channel, massive, massive data in the United States showing if you live within 100 miles of a coal power plant, your chances of dying prematurely are literally 80% higher. Move away if you live near one. I begged people, just move away, please. You have to do it. Even if it's hard for your family, it's still worth it. Miners in the central Appalachian states of Kentucky, Virginia, and West Virginia face the most severe risk. Central Appalachian coal miners born in 1940 or later had over 8 times the odds of dying from a non-malignant respiratory disease such as black lung or COPD than their counterparts in the general population. When coal is burned, it generates ash, which is also toxic. Now the federal agency is finally recognizing the dangers posed by radium in coal ash, the byproduct of burning coal for electricity. It says the cancer risk from exposure to the material widely used for construction fill may be as much as 35 times higher than previously revealed. 35 times higher than what we thought. Coal ash winds up in pits and is even used in some construction and road projects. How is this legal? It's madness. Now the government's saying, don't close these coal power plants, which are making a loss, more expensive to run than renewables, and are literally killing people. You can't make this stuff up. Honestly, the United States pretends it's the beacon of democracy. I don't see how this is democratic in any way, shape, or form. Look at China, right? Yeah, it's not a democracy at all, but at least they're heading in the right direction. They're 100% focusing on renewables now. Coal power plants are basically, there's lots of them, but they're not really building any more of them anymore. Approvals are pretty much gone. So they're built out of renewables, at least around cities. They don't have these coal power plants, yeah? It's crazy. On the first day of his second term, President Donald Trump declared an emergency in the United States. He said it was an energy emergency, a claim that states and others have actually legally challenged in court. An energy emergency. In April, Trump issued another executive order directing the Department of Energy to expedite its process for mandating that retiring power plants continue to operate to address emergencies, a power it is asserting under Section 202 of the Federal Power Act. So far, the Department of Energy has issued 90-day emergency orders directing Consumers Energy and Constellation Energy to continue running generating units in Michigan and Pennsylvania past their planned retirements. Department of Energy said the units are needed to avoid blackouts, which is not true. Consumers Energy, the majority owner of the 1,560 megawatt coal-fired J.H. Campbell power plant in Michigan that was ordered to remain online past its May 31 retirement date, reported to the Securities and Exchange Commission last month that it spent $30 million in the first 38 days of a Department of Energy order to keep the plant online. In other words, it was saying it's economically stupid. Based on that filing, Grid Strategies estimated the cost to keep it running is about $280 million a year for one coal power plant, just to keep it running. In June, Michigan's Attorney General filed a challenge to the Department of Energy's order affecting the J.H. Campbell plant, saying the emergency determination cannot bear even the mildest scrutiny. The scheduled retirement of J.H. Campbell was the culmination of a carefully planned process that unfolded over 4 years, Michigan's complaint says. Under the oversight of state regulators, Consumers Energy executed a plan to retire an old and inefficient facility, which was costing them money, and replace it largely with newer resources that would both increase consumers' available generation capacity and save its ratepayers money. Save the money. It noted that the mid-continent independent system operator carefully studied the plant's proposed retirement and determined that the facility should retire and could retire without causing any reliability issues whatsoever, completely contradicting what the Department of Energy, as ordered by Donald Trump, is saying. There are indications that DOE has talked with the owners of many other retiring power plants about potentially mandating their retention, Grid Strategies said in the report. Power plants have been slated to retire because their owners and state regulators have determined they are no longer economic or needed. Grid Strategies said in the report, Department of Energy mandates override those well-informed decisions, inflating electric bills for homeowners, in other words, making your bills higher, and businesses, and undermining the competitiveness of US factories and data centers. Not counting generating units that may be replaced with new fossil-fueled units, about 35 gigawatt of capacity is set to retire before 2029. Grid Strategy said, citing US Energy Information Administration data. And the reason it's retiring is because it's old, has to be fixed constantly, breaks constantly. It costs more to keep it running in some cases than what they can possibly make out of it. If additional power plant owners try to accelerate planned retirement dates to take advantage of ratepayer subsidies available to plants facing these mandates, the bill to ratepayers could increase to $6 billion a year, the Grid Strategies analysis found. For this high-end cost estimate, it included an additional 31.4 gigawatts of capacity that is at least 60 years old. 60 years. In other words, these US states, they are trying to actually turn off these coal power plants that are at least 60 years old. It's like Pakistan or like, it's literally like deep Africa. I mean, it's crazy. MISO could face $1.1 billion in annual cost by the end of 2028 to keep its 12,110 megawatt online, according to Grid Strategies. So it's going to cost them $1.1 billion yearly to keep their ancient, more than 60-year-old power plants running. The PJM interconnection could be hit with $732 million in cost to keep about 8,200 megawatts from retiring. And the California Independent System Operator faces $390 million to prevent 4,360 megawatts from shattering in the same period, according to the analysis. The report is completely out of touch with the reality, according to Ben Diedrich, the Department of Energy press secretary. So basically, the US government has come back, looked at all those reports, and rather than actually coming up with a logical response and saying, well, we've done our own report based on this data, this, and this, all they said was, the report is out of touch with reality. For years, it sounds like Donald Trump wrote it, right? For years, American grid operators have warned decommissioning baseload power sources would jeopardize the reliability of our electric grid. You can read their reports. So basically, they have no data. They can't be bothered to assess it. They have a political agenda. They've decided that's what they're going to do no matter what. And it doesn't matter how much data these states in the US give them. They've made up their minds. Yeah. Feels kind of dystopian. What do you think? Thanks for watching.